I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to see the video we put out last Sunday about what's happening this fall. Yeah. Did anybody not see it? How about we go that way? Okay. So, all right. Well, we have some things that are brewing and changing and happening within the ministry for many different purposes, and we're going to talk a lot about that. But if our mission is to preach, baptize, and disciple, we also have to realize that our primary responsibility, and I said it in that video, is to partner with the parents. We see in Deuteronomy 6 that it is the parents' role to raise their kids to be disciples. And so it is our job to come alongside the parent and provide them with accountability, with resources, with teaching the Word of God, with support, with prayer, in order to support what they are called to do. And so it is not our job to raise their kid to love God. It's not our job to make their kid a disciple. It is to partner alongside of them. And so as we do that in ministry, a lot of times things are going to change. And so I wanted to kind of show you, I was just doing math the other day. If you came to the last breakout that Christy did back in May, she did this picture of how much time we spend with kids versus parents. And there was these 2 jars of gumballs or M&Ms or something like that, you know. Gummy bears? Okay, gummy bears. To demonstrate the difference. And so parents get on average, every parent is different in amount of time. Like Scott has a lot less time with 10 kids than other people. But you get on average between 1,500 and 3,000 hours in a year with your kid. On average, a church with the most dedicated kid who comes almost every week except for vacation and when they're sick, we get 40 hours. And so in an entire year, that works out to 0.5% of their year. And that's for the most dedicated kid who comes to church. We get 0.5% of their time in a year. And so they're going to spend with their parents somewhere between, 20 and 30% of their year with their parents. One, it's their responsibility to raise their kids, and 2, they spend a whole lot more time with them. And so their influence is much bigger. And so our job is to come alongside them, because that's our most dedicated kid. When we actually, Christy and I did some statistics looking in our check-in system. Most kids in the ministry, 50% of our kids in the ministry attend twice a month. Another, it's like 65%, split it in half. So whatever that, 30-some percent. Attend twice a month. The other half of those 65%, they attend once a month. And so when you look at those numbers, we're down to like 0.1% of a kid's life is spent with us. And that's giving them an hour a week, which of that hour we have about 15 minutes or less to teach them the Bible. So you're like, the church and what we have and the influence we have is very minimal in all the other things, screen time, parents, school, sleep, food, all that. So our primary responsibility is we need to partner with the parents and what they're doing and teach and raise them to raise their kids to be disciples. And so as we kind of go forward, we're looking through the lens of all the things we offer, from events to ministry opportunities to media, online content, parent resources, at-home resources, and asking the question, are we partnering with parents, and are we doing it well? Or could we be doing it better? So there are a lot of questions that we ask here at The Rock whenever we do something. The very first one, Wes has always asked this question from before I was here, but why do we do this? So you can apply that to absolutely anything. First is, are we doing this for parents, or how are we effectively supporting parents? Then, why do we do this? And so that's to keep us on point on purpose. So remember, our mission is to preach, baptize, disciple. So if we're doing an event and it doesn't preach, baptize, or disciple, then we ask the question, why are we doing this? We might cut it because that doesn't fall within our vision. It helps us stay on track of what we're doing. It also just makes sure we're accomplishing our goal in everything that we do, that we're not just wasting time and money and resources and volunteer hours and things like that. Another question that we ask is, we actually got this at a conference back in April that we went to, is how do our ministries support one another? And so, like, how does kids ministry support marriage ministry and men's and women's ministry and youth ministry and the preaching ministry on the weekend in the auditorium, community groups, etc. Like, how do these ministries support each other? How does the production team support all of the different ministries? How does the youth ministry support all the different ministries? So we're starting to ask that question. And as we started to ask ourselves that question, that one started to become new. Is a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we run a ministry because we want to or something like that, and we found that some of our ministries aren't supporting one another, and that's actually causing us, and I'll talk more in a minute about that, causing us to actually like self-harm our ministries because we're not supporting each other. And then there's two questions that kind of follow that. Can we change what we're doing to make things more effective? Or are there things we're not doing that we need to be doing that would be more effective? And so I say all of that to say is we've made some changes coming in the fall with all of those questions in mind. Our primary purpose is to support the parent. Are we doing that through the things that we do? If the answer is no, we might remove it, or we might change it, or we might seek something else to do. If we answer the question that it's not fulfilling the vision of the church, the vision of not like the Rock Church, but like just the church in general, God's church, the kingdom of God, to make disciples, if we're not doing that, we might cut it or change it or do something else. If it doesn't support, that's a new one we're asking, but if it's not supporting one another within the church, if they're not all working together, if the body of Christ is not working together to support each other, we might change it or cut it or do something different. And so the example that's before us, if you watch the video, is midweek has changed a lot this fall. Okay, so I want to give you this as an example and talk about why we've made this shift. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, is coming in September, the few of the changes that have happened. One is that there is no kids rock on the midweek service. So normally in the past Wednesday there's been birth through 5th grade, and we have selectively chose to remove that for a time. I don't know if it'll be forever, but right now. And so going back to those questions, why do we do midweek kids ministry? We ask that question because we've always asked the question, why do we do a ministry? Why do we do Rock Youth? Why do we do Kids Rock? Why do we do Hayride S'mores and More for Youth or Family Fun Night? All these different things. We always ask that question. And when we asked that question, one of the answers that literally came out to the staff table was because we always have. Right? Because there used to be adult Bible study on Wednesday night that needed child care, and so we had kids ministry. And it used to actually be, I think, Awana back in the day. And so that was like a glaring thing. Because we always have, it's not always a good reason. And then we started to ask the question, does that kids ministry support other ministries? And we started to really examine that one because that's actually a big area that we didn't realize was a problem. But we started to see, if you were around at all, that it was like kids ministry was really harming youth ministry happening on Wednesday night for many different reasons. Kids are very distracting, and teenagers are very hard to draw back when you have a lot of noise going on, as well as we had a lot of issues with injuries. We even had a kid bust his 2 front teeth out because he was a kindergartner playing with sixth graders. And so it started to actually hinder the ability to do ministry with middle and high schoolers. So it wasn't, at that point, not supporting that. We have a big vacuum on Tuesday nights of men and women that, I don't know if you've heard or in the rumor mills, that the kids ministry on Tuesday nights is terrible and parents won't bring their kids to it. And so we realized, well, kids ministry is not supporting that. And one of the reasons is because Wednesday night midweek exists. And so why would we do another night of kids ministry, again, on Tuesday? We noticed that it became harmful, actually, to the leadership and to the volunteers on the weekend. Because now you've got it taxing time and resources and curriculum development and resource like collecting and all this kind of stuff and doing another lesson. That Wednesday night was actually like harming the weekend and the strength that it could be there. I guess our primary thing, again, back to parents, and we're to support parents, it started to confuse the message to parents. And I say that to mean we have a Sunday message and we have a Wednesday message, and they're two different things, and how is a parent supposed to focus on what is going on? And so just kind of looking at it, how can we focus the message of what's going out to parents? What are they talking to their kids with? And so I don't know if you've seen, we started up, Christy's been doing a vlog every single week. It's 1 minute-ish of what they're learning. And parents, this is what to read this week, and this is what to talk to your kids about this week. To, again, support the parents. But that one message, when we're doing 2 different Bible lessons in a week, is confusing and, makes things muddled. They don't know where to listen. There's too much. What you're saying might be good, but it becomes noise in their ears. And then this one was huge and kept coming back to us and coming back to us. We offer a lot here at The Rock, which is awesome. There's a lot of different ministries, but we had yet another night away from home. Just asking parents to bring their kids out one more time among soccer practice and basketball practice and all these different things. And so since we're providing something on the weekends heavily geared and like we want to do strong towards the weekend, another night away from home is not supporting the household. It's making the household more busy. And we just came to this understanding that, man, Wednesday Night Kids really wasn't supporting our vision of what we do and supporting the parents. It doesn't support other ministries. Teenagers don't have kids that need to be watched. Does that make sense? It's not supporting that. But Tuesday night does need that. And so we're not officially announcing that there's kids ministry on Tuesday night in the sense yet, but we are working on some resource and ability, and it starts with the conversation of you guys, because those of you that serve on Wednesday, we would love for you to be able to shift to Tuesday. And if we're able to build up that Tuesday night as a ministry, we can really support the men's and women's ministry, and then push to the church and say that kids ministry is happening on Tuesday night when men's and women's need it, and we can support the ministry. And so with that, that's kind of the rationale, a lot of the rationale behind why we've made this decision, is to really make the ministry healthier. And so I know people have been asking, and you know people call The Rock or email us, and they're probably asking you what's going on. I just wanted you guys to understand our philosophy and thought process, because those questions go into everything. So if you were ever here for Summerfest, anybody? Brennan? Okay. Most of those questions were asked, and Summerfest went away. Trunk or treat, back in the day? Yeah. Same questions were asked. I don't remember. Is there anything else that? But we aren't just always going to do something because we've always done it. We do things that God has called us to do that support the mission of the church. And when and if they stop doing that, or they're not the most effective thing, maybe there's something better to do, or more effective way. And sometimes cutting back will actually make us stronger. And so that's our goal in that change. And so with this, if we change, the youth ministry have a more conducive environment for their midweek. Because if you didn't know, we do have community groups on Sunday for 6th through 8th grade. But we don't have like a full-blown youth ministry. Wednesday night is their night. It's when they get to do things. So this creates a conducive environment for that. The Tuesday night, we can shift and really support the men's and women's ministry. This will greatly increase our parent focus and our mission to support the parents in creating a single vision and focus and not taxing the home with another night away. And it allows us as a leadership team, if you were here back in May, we talked, and we're going to talk more in our individual breakouts, about community leaders and coaches and assistants, creating community among you guys. And so Christy and Ashley, I don't know if you guys knew this, but both of them are part-time. They're supposed to only work 20 hours a week. That never happens. But with that, this frees them up a lot more to focus community on you guys and not resource collecting and organization collecting and things like that. So it allow us to do what we need to do to support you guys community-wise and grow the foster the community and not just a program. And then for me, those of you who work with my wife, isn't she pretty awesome? Yeah, okay. She's shaking her head. But, no, she's awesome. She's my right hand. she's my helpmeet that the Bible talks about in Genesis. She really is. And since 2 years and a couple months ago, when she and I decided to shift into this role where she's over elementary, it's made it very challenging for me. And so it also allows me to have my wife back on Wednesday nights to support the women volunteers that help in the youth ministry that I just don't know how to connect with in that way. We had it for so many years, and it allows us to have that back. That's kind of a personal thing, but I think it also really supports the ministry of Rock Youth as well. And it also is going to allow us, the final question was, are there things that we're not doing that would be more effective to reaching the household? Remember, our mission is preach, baptize, disciple, and to do that by partnering with parents. There are a lot of things that we've done in the past, Awana being one, not a bad thing. We don't do it anymore. I don't have a clue. It was gone before I came. But, we asked that question, but are there things that we could be doing in the future that are more effective? And so we've got some things that we're dreaming about and working through. Parenting ministry is a huge heart of mine to see really begin to happen, and educating parents on what the Bible teaches and how to be a parent and raise your kid to be a disciple. And so we've got some more parenting resources we want to work on. We want to get definitely more in the digital presence and video. We're potentially working on this family talk. Anybody seen like Encore and Walkworthy? Okay, so that style thing, talking, parents talking, family talking about issues and how to work through things, and just creating this, online community where people can interact and engage with the Bible. And so they don't have to come to another night of Bible study. They don't have, they can do it in their free time, as well as we can just engage people who aren't willing to walk in a church door. And so we'd like to start that soon. As well as our final dream. So I want to share with you where my heart is. I think one of the biggest disservices that we did to the church long before probably any of you guys were even born too, is we created youth ministry. We did. We created silos. We created these worlds, kids ministry, kids church, youth ministry. We created all these worlds where this little group gets away and does something and separates the family. The family doesn't worship together. They don't stand together. Dads don't have, kids don't have a visual influence of their dad and mom worshiping in church, reading the Bible, learning under a pastor. And so I asked that question of, is what we do actually effective to the mission of making disciples? And if making disciples is the parents' part, how can we partner with that? So my dream is to develop a ministry where parents and kids love and respect one another and openly discuss what God is teaching them and the things that they're struggling with. A few weeks ago, I was standing actually right about over here, and I asked a dad to go to winter camp, and I think she's 7th or 8th grade daughter said, absolutely not, I don't want him there. I think that's an awful answer. I think she needs to be okay that her dad is there because their communication, their respect for one another is in such a way that she'd be okay with her dad knowing what she's struggling with. Not that he needs to be in her group when she's talking about those things, but they need to revolve in one another's world because this isn't about me raising that girl to be a disciple of Christ. This is his responsibility that I'm coming alongside. So my dream is that parents would be more involved, that we would have this cross-integration, that kids would finally get to high school and be okay with their mom and dad being somewhere in the youth ministry and not have a problem with that if that's where God called them to be, because their parents already know what they're struggling with, because they're already open talking about that at home, because they're reading their Bibles together, because they're praying together. And I don't think that's happening. If it were, I think we would see a real revival in people's hearts to share the gospel with other people. But we've segregated, and we come, and some of us listen to Wes, and some of us listen to Brian, some of us listen to Chrissy, some of us listen to Ashley, and we feel like, all motivated, and then we get in the car, and we yell and bicker and fight. Anybody? Is that true? Okay. Yes? Okay. But my dream, our dream, is to see the families come together, to see parents and kids praying together, reading together, talking about what they're learning, talking about what they're struggling with, and then we come alongside of that, support that, and encourage kids to go back and do that more. And so everything that we do futuristically is geared towards that purpose. And so I don't know what the future holds for kids ministry and youth ministry and family ministry and all those kind of things. I don't know for sure. But if it's not preaching, baptizing, discipling, and partnering with parents, we're going to be asking the question, is this something we should be doing? And if not, even if it's something that is, sometimes even if it is accomplishing that, like I can't tell you the number of people that trunk or treat or even Summerfest. Like I remember standing out here with Summerfest, my first summer here, and people, Wes preaching the gospel, and people were in lawn chairs over here, and we had a horse trough, a metal horse trough, and people got baptized. It was accomplishing the goal, but what it was also doing is hindering every neighbor in this community hated the Rock Church. And so we asked the question, was it supporting what we're doing? And the answer was yes and no. And so we cut it, because that neighborhood and hearing the gospel is more important than a silly program that we do. And so we'll continue to ask that question. We'll continue to look at what we do and why we do it. But that's all for the purpose of going forward with the mission and the vision of the church and getting on board. So I'm really excited. I hope that that's not like debilitating, but I hope it helps you understand how we do things and how we process things here. Anybody have any questions or anything? Cool. Are you guys excited about what God's doing? Yeah? Okay.